Hi, everybody. Welcome back to RVAsec 2023. Beautiful Richmond, Virginia. My next guest, what's your name?
I'm Andrea Matwyshyn.
Doctor.
Doctor, yes.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty strike. Very good. You have a lot of titles. I couldn't get them in the graphics, but I want everybody to know your background. This is fascinating.
So I'm a professor of law and a professor of engineering design at Penn State in both the law school and the engineering school. And I have two labs. One is a technology policy lab called the Policy Innovation Lab of Tomorrow. And the second is a gender and economic equity lab called the Manglona Lab for Gender and Economic Equity.
The Policy Innovation Lab. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most policies that I've written, they're really good, but they're not sustainable. It's about sustainability.
It is about sustainability.
Yeah, that's the secret sauce.
It is. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Both in the private sector and in the public sector.
And I like that title. It's kind of like the, what was the thing at the Carousel of Tomorrow at Disneyland?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Innovation Lab of Tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Buckminster Fuller is somewhere in the background of the recesses of my mind in helping me name things. Yeah.
Now, you gave a lecture, and tell us what that was about. Or you're going to give a lecture. Which one?
I just finished speaking about basically the future of software liability for security issues. There was a White House cybersecurity strategy document that came out in March that raised some questions for the security community. There was much FUD and discussion on social media, so I wanted to tell a few stories about reframing Y2K and about how the various different forms of liability, because of course, as you know,
right,
having studied law yourself, there are various different ways that you can achieve or get to a point of a finding of liability that aren't necessarily one size fits all, nor do they come from a single body of law. So there's a mess. It depends, there's nuance, it's fact specific. So I wanted to try to talk to folks about some of those details.
Certainly, I don't need to tell you you're spot on, but I'm going to tell you you're spot on from a security guy perspective, because I've been in police and security for 42 years, right? And my law professor used to say, in Los Angeles anyway, give me enough facts I can convict a cheese sandwich. And he was 100% correct about that. What I never understood was why people don't get this. I don't think it's because they're not lawyers, right? I've always said, all these apps going on my phone, they don't put any security in them. They say, we'll do it after the fact. I say, they're liable for that. Oh, no, we're not, because, time to market, blah, blah, blah. I said, one day somebody's going to get smart and sue them, and it's going to change the fabric and the landscape of how we do security. I hope you succeed in that, by the way. Not just writing policy, but we might need some class action suit that says, listen, we got to change the way we do this. It's wrong.
So we're seeing the first sets of class action suits, some in product bases, but some in corporate governance bases.
Yes.
So
Sarbanes-Oxley stuff?
There are securities claims, yes. The SEC actually has new guidance that it is, currently it's a notice and comment, but there are likely going to be some new rules around security. And so you see companies, shareholders, being increasingly interested in bringing suit for what they perceive to be mismanagement on the part of the board of directors and officers when either incidents are not disclosed fully or are handled in such a way that the shareholders, especially for public companies, feel that it's cost them money and share value.
I'll tell you why they don't get it. I started this 42 years ago, and now my counterparts are at the C level that stayed in, or they're captains or chiefs of police, right? And they don't get it. They didn't get a computer in 1984 like I did. They didn't, and they don't understand it. And so they're making decisions at the board level on things they don't get, when it's clear to you and me that if you write some code that's bad and you do it because you're lazy, that's negligence. If you do it because you really don't care and it's wanton and willful, those things all apply in the law with coding and time to market and stuff. And I'm surprised nobody's already won this kind of thing.
So I think part of what made us think about things out of line with 200 plus years of tort law precedent is that we got a bit of a pass around Y2K when Congress specifically passed a statute to give a break on liability. But before that, the default was a presumption of liability, as you're saying. And so as the technology industries have matured, we've kind of gotten away from realizing that the default is not the one that we got for Y2K, but instead the one that
adopted another default
before.
that doesn't exist.
Right.
Oh,
so
interesting.
we're in a point where there's sort of a legal recalibration happening, and people are saying, hey, wait a second, the other industries are saying, why does tech get a pass?
Yeah,
Why
that's
are
a good
they
question.
getting a special legal regime when the rest of us have these traditional liability regimes coming from tort and contract and director and officer duties and securities regulation and industry sector specific governance?
So I think people look at software as either copyrighted material, intellectual property, or a patent for process, when in fact it's a policy. It's a policy on how you're going to run my computer and my phone. And if your policy says, I don't give a crap about security, that's negligence to me. But how do you define software liability? How's it properly defined?
Well, so the sort of the point of my talk was that it's not just one thing. It's all of these different bodies of law that look at things on a fact-specific basis.
Okay.
And so it depends on what your business model is, what you are implementing in terms of oversight, what you are looking for in terms of day-to-day management. So it's all of the good threat modeling stuff that security professionals are already doing, but part of what is missing in some cases is this broader sense of how it fits into what you're saying, how it fits into the society and who else should be at that threat modeling table, including law and policy staff, to think about what messages are being sent to the consumers that are using these products, to the market as to whether the company is being managed with care. And all of that gets bundled together, and we could, talk for 4 hours about each of these bases of liability.
Well, I remember at a studio I work for, I won't say a name, they called in for launching a product, which I won't mention, that involved kids, and I said, well, my input is the first line of code needs to be security. Now, we bring the cyber guys in after, we have to have it fluid, make it work. I said, no. Well, guess what happened? The guy that ran the joint and set the whole thing up, he got busted for using an avatar to try to solicit minors in his own app, right? This stuff happens all the time, right? And I think that it's not new, like you said, right? But I'm just waiting for some lawyer to say, you know what? That looks like 1856 when we came up with tort liability for something. And I think we're going there.
We're going there, I think.
And you know who's going to drive that? The insurance companies. Because now they're not going to issue cyber insurance because you're going to go in there and say, no, that's not going to cover it, pal. Yeah. Any cases you could cite that have been successful? Maybe they're not giant cases, but I mean, people have filed lawsuits for this stuff, right?
Yeah, well, so if folks watch my presentation, there's basically a whole list of cases in every federal circuit.
Oh, wow.
We're having action all over the place in different bases. And even on the insurance point that you made, you're having insurers start to reassess the extent to which they want to be participating in the market for cyber insurance. And you have litigation over, for example, the meaning of terms of art such as act of God.
Oh, yes, very good.
So what I expect will happen in that case is the recognition that the traditional meaning of act of God, meaning something that is unforeseeable, not within the control of the insured,
right.
I would expect that it would align with the idea of, hey, if you get hit with a 0-day, fine, we can call that an act of God. But I think for the average insurer, they're going to be hard-pressed to be willing to pay out for, the CVE 10.0 scored vulnerability from 2 years ago that you just chose to absorb as tech debt and not patch.
It's fascinating. Of course, act of God may be defined as how Bill Gates behaves. It could be the new act of God. I'm not really sure, but I got one for you. So back in the 90s, in Boston federal court, I filed a case of first impression for criminal prosecution of a denial of service attack. They'd never seen one, they didn't know what it was, but they read the code and said, yeah, let's put that guy in jail. And they did. And back then, this is a long time ago, they had some statutes that said Secret Service can come in, hand you a piece of paper without a subpoena, take all your computers, and you're shut down, and mandatory 6 months in jail. So these things have been on the books a long time. We've just never got out there and started prosecuting. Do you think if we put people in jail before we sued them, we might get a change faster? I mean, that's a serious question.
I'm a corporate lawyer, so the prison part of this is someone else's theorizing. But we have seen in the last year or two the first criminal prosecution of a CISO for
interesting.
conduct
Yes.
arising from
Okay.
a professional context.
Yeah.
And that's been a polarizing prosecution in the security community, but ultimately a successful one.
Was it for wanton and willful or intention, or
So it was in connection with rebranding this is the DOJ's framing, rebranding a non-disclosure of material facts related to a security breach, an incident, as a bug bounty payout, and not being honest about it
Wow.
with federal regulators.
That's very good. Very good. Well, I wish I had seen your lecture, but I'm going to start following
It'll be
you.
on the internet.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Very, very good. Give us your name and how can we get hold of you? Find you on LinkedIn?
I'm Andrea Matwyshyn. I'm on LinkedIn. If you Google me, there's only one of me that does security. My URL is andreamm.com. I'm all over Penn State's website. My labs are pilotlab.org, Manglona Lab, manglona.org, and my Penn State faculty page will have my email address. And I'm on the social media, of all of the social media sites, for better or worse.
Excellent. Back in a minute here at RVAsec 2023, Richmond, Virginia. Thank you so much.
Thanks very
Fascinating.